Hi.
Hello. Alrighty, let's just take a couple of breaths together. Alrighty, let's just take a couple of breaths together and get clear on the intention before we start. Alright. 3 breaths? Okay. And just setting the intention to anchor into the beautiful, loving energy within this space. Acknowledging the earth beneath us, the guardians of the space. As we tune into that frequency within the space, may it echo through our conversation together, and whoever listens to this may receive whatever they need to as we deepen our connection through love and joy and heartfelt connection. Fun.
Beautiful.
I'm excited about this. It's pretty cool.
My heart's like dancing. It's excited.
Yeah, so welcome back to the podcast. For those of you who don't know, this is Libby, my partner. Would you like to just give us a quick
Intro,
yeah.
Yeah, so for those who don't know me, my name is Libby, and my business or way I show up on social media is through the Rebirth. I am a breathwork facilitator, and I work with many modalities to support people to find that inner empowerment, inner confidence, and inner love. And it's an absolute privilege to be walking alongside you, my love, for over a year now. Yeah.
It's gone fast, hey?
I know.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. Libby and I met on social media a few years ago, and I guess give them the basic story, eh?
I remember you called me out. I think I posted something on one of my stories and you like commented on it and you called me out and you're like, I disagree with this. And I was like, okay, tell me why.
That does sound like me. Yeah. Yeah, so we've kind of been connected through social media, and then I just kind of, I think I'd come down to house sit down in Christchurch with for a friend of ours, and yeah, was looking for a space to facilitate a breathwork session, and you were managing that space. That was the cacao ambassador, who's played a large part in our lives. We're actually sipping some cacao right now, the Wahine blend. But yeah, I remember just sitting down on that couch chatting to you about the space, and then kind of, I don't know what happened, but we just ended up opening up and having a very deep and meaningful conversation. And yeah, I just remember feeling that deep sense of safety, but also the pain you were feeling. And yeah, and then we just spent a bunch of time together.
Hung out like non-stop, eh?
Yeah, hung out a bunch of times. We went to Castle Hill a lot, which was amazing, to Kohanga. And just, remember that time we were driving there and we were kind of listing what we were looking for in a partner. And we were listing the same things. That should have been a tohu, like a...
I think there was so many tohu, but we just like weren't even in the awareness of like it was each other.
Yeah.
We were just really enjoying the connections, and it felt so refreshing to be so unattached or like looking for a partner and checking if it was the right person. It was like we were so open and
just hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for those who don't know, a tohu is like a sign is probably the best way to describe it. It's today. But yeah, I ended up extending my trip down here while I was still living in Auckland, and then came back at the start of the year. And I'd like to say it was like smooth sailing, but it wasn't at all, because I had so much resistance. Yeah, it was a massive part of my journey to let go of control of everything and trust in it, trust in the relationship, trust in myself, trust in, probably most importantly, trust in the divine timing of everything. And yeah, realizing that that was beyond my control. So yeah, we had a bit of a rocky start as I kind of became more comfortable with the idea of being in a relationship.
It was like that incredible time when you were house sitting, I think, 6 weeks or something? Or maybe a bit less, but it was just like this beautiful friendship, hanging out so much, and then you went back to Auckland and decided that you needed to move down to Christchurch, and then you bought a car. And remember, I flew up to Nelson, and like that was just magical. Like we'd started to realise that there was something a bit more than friends, and we just had the most incredible time. And then, yeah, it all started to become real, and we're like,
The flight mode within both of us could have kicked in. Yeah, that flight response kicked in big time.
I think I went into fawn. Like I went into like, no, but I know this is like, there's so much potential here. Like the connection we have is amazing. I know you felt it as well. I felt it with you. And then you were like, nah. So it was big surrendering for me of like letting it go and letting you process what you needed to process and just trusting that.
Yeah, it was very much, and still kind of am to a certain extent, stuck in the analytical mind. But I've definitely developed a lot more into connecting to my heart in these last 12 months. Or less than that actually, probably 10 months. Yeah, it was an amazing trip down from Nelson, going and swimming in the springs. Yeah, I knew you were worth keeping around when you got naked and jumped in the cold water with me. It's like it's on my list of important things. Must be into cold swimming. Yeah. And yeah.
And then I think I went down to Queenstown, and that's where I think we both just shut off, because it had been so magical for those 10 days when we reconnected. And then I went away, and then you were living at that house that I was at. And then I came back, and it was like there was just this wall between us.
Yeah, which I guess makes life so much easier when you can kind of just disconnect and pretend like there's nothing there, and continue to go about life rather than pursuing something that, I guess when it came down to it at the end of the day, it was just that feeling of a deep sense of fear of the hurt. Because I think when we're really, and it's kind of a reflection that we've both had with each other many times, is the love is so strong that it almost becomes scary. Like there's the fear of that love not being available. It reminds me of that quote, which is about grief, which just is that grief is love that has no place to go. I really love that quote.
Kind of softens it a bit, hey?
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess it comes back to just once again trusting in the process and the divine and all of our tools that we've developed. We've both got better at opening up and gone through leaps and bounds pretty quickly.
I remember like that time that you went up to Auckland. So you were back in Christchurch, and then you went back up to Auckland, but just for a holiday, just over last Christmas. And it was at that point where you were like, nah, friendship, nah, I'm not looking for a relationship, and had completely shut off. And I just remember the pain that I felt, and that was that fear coming into reality for me. It was like this love and this potential, and I know you know it, and it's like, how can I bring it to light? But it was never my journey to bring it to light for you. And the level of surrender I had to go into, and like pain and grief, it was exactly that quote that you just said. It was like that grieving all of this love that I felt for you, but it had nowhere to go. And then I remember you coming back, and it was like we were still like best friends, like hanging out, cooking meals together, and then
living in the same place,
living in the same house again. And it just got to a point where my whole body was in this state of stress, and I was like, I need this next step in the relationship, because I can't soften anymore, and I'm like walking around like a fragile piece of china.
But that was amazing, right? That because you'd stepped out of the fawn response.
Totally.
And when you stepped into that, like expressing your needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that activated something in me, whereas I was all of a sudden like, oh shit, if I don't act here, then I'm going to lose something that's very valuable to me.
That's what I did, hey?
Which is exactly what you did, yeah. So it was massive growth for both of us, I think.
Do you remember what happened? Do you remember what I did?
You gave me the ultimatum. Either you were leaving, or we were going to go deeper.
And that was so hard for me, because I had to come to terms with losing you. I had to be like, what? I mean, it's in his hands, but this is what I need. This is... Yeah, I became very, very clear on what I needed, and I remember being that morning, I think you'd just woken up, and like I came into your room and like laid on the bed, and then it was just like I wasn't getting anything, and I was like, F this, I'm out, I'm going for a run. Went and bawled my eyes out on the beach, came back, and I was like, okay, here it is. This is what I need.
Yeah, the power of expressing your needs, eh?
Getting clear on them as well, like for a woman to give herself the time to become clear on her needs.
And now here we are.
And here we are. When was that? That ultimatum happened in February? Start of February?
Or March, I think, yeah. And what are we now? October.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it has definitely had its ups and downs still, right? But it's not in like, it's in a different way where neither of us are looking for the door.
No.
We're like, still can be annoyed at each other. But it's in like a way of just needing to step apart and process whatever's arising, as opposed to looking for an escape route, which I think is massive. And I guess I speak for myself, but for both of us potentially a very different way of being and operating, and also so much more spaciousness as well, because there's no fear around there of what the other is thinking,
and it keeps coming back to ourselves, right? Like no matter what we're navigating in a relationship, we've both got this level of self-responsibility. So in times where I'm feeling disconnected to you, the biggest and most powerful thing that I can do is go and have my own space.
I think that's where human design's been hugely beneficial as well, that understanding the way we show up in the world and that kind of help dictate how we show up in relationships as well.
I think for me, in like times of conflict, and I've noticed it a few times where something will come up and I can either go into this just like total cut off, like flight response, but not necessarily physically flight. It's like I'll just not even be present with you. And other times it'll go into that fawning of like it's often actually, if something's going on for me, I will go into flight. If something's going on for someone else, then I'll go into fawn. So when something's happening for you, I'll be like, what can I do to support it, try to make everything all better, when actually what you need is space.
That's what it always comes down to. I just need some space.
Yeah.
Even today, like, just not that there was anything wrong, but just having that space to myself just to decompress after all the craziness of all we've been doing.
This morning on the beach.
Yeah, even like walking separately with the dogs on the beach. Yeah.
And I think like that's even big for me, right? Of like, it's like disconnecting. Not disconnecting the love that's there, but disconnecting any attachment or need or feeling like I have to fix and prove my love to you. It's actually like there was an energy that was being transformed through you, which was resulting in a sense of moodiness. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to go and walk on the other side of the beach and dip my feet in the ocean and leave you in your stuff. And that's how you process it the best way, hey?
Well, it comes back to human design again, hey? Like, and being processing through emotions. Yeah, it's interesting how important that time apart for us is. And not even so much for extended periods, but just those moments we have where we can kind of step back, decompress, clear whatever isn't part of the relationship, or understand what energies are and need to be, approached or reconciled. But yeah, otherwise things get projected onto our connection, which don't deserve to be.
And we don't see clearly, right? Like when we're so clouded with emotion, or we're both emotional processors, and that emotion can sometimes come in as like density, right? It's not giving us this clear perspective on the situation or the other person's intention. And when we react or respond from that place, like it happened the other day when we were making cacao and you were joking around and you were putting joy into the cacao, and it's been an intention to bring more joy into the relationship, and you did that in the most heartfelt, loving, intentional way, putting joy into the cacao. And because I had this build up of my own emotion and just hadn't had space to myself, I snapped at you. And that was nothing to do with you, but we see how it starts to like project at the other person, which where it comes back to that self-responsibility.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I guess it comes back to that quote that I was referring to on social media today about, if you can't handle my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. It's like, it's nothing to do with that. It's about responsibility. Someone can hold space for you in your worst, but they don't. It's not their fault, their problem to try and manage you. And it also doesn't mean that you have to be your best around the person, It's, it takes radical self-responsibility. Yeah, I guess coming back to that joy piece, like and I guess we've both been trying to understand what that even means, like what does joy even look like? Because we've both been so focused on personal development for so many years and building our own thing and having to do it all on our own. And now we have this other person that isn't necessarily taking the weight, but we can, connect to it and lighten the load in some way that I don't remember the last time I really kind of even explored what was joyful. I know that dancing makes me joyful, but how can we bring that into the relationship and what that even looks like? Because often, I know in my personal experience, joy used to look like learning things about personal development and I guess it's just part of who I am, but it's not something that is necessarily as joyful as it could be. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I feel like it's satisfying. Like learning about personal development, that's really satisfying. Like if I'm reading my rebirth book or learning new information, it's really satisfying.
Yeah, I guess it's confusing joy with, like you say, satisfaction of discovering something new or learning something new or integrating something. Which, although kind of maybe produces similar endorphins, it's not really the same.
Yeah, I feel like it's satisfying to journey into personal development, to learn about personal development. Like if I'm reading one of the Leonard Orr rebirthing books, satisfying to learn new information, but joy is a whole different experience that I think we sometimes get confused about, and it feels like a really powerful emotion that I'm calling back into my life. Like, you can see a child that's just so authentically, purely joyous. Yeah,
which can be achieved from purely being present in the moment without having to do anything. Or maybe without having to do anything that is productive.
And putting down, I think for both of us, especially when we're running our own businesses, and there's almost like this need to stay afloat or need to
stay relevant is a massive one.
Yeah. And if we put that all down, it's almost like, oh, we don't have time to tap into joy. We don't have time to slow down, kind of thing.
But then ironically, like even today, I found just through my presence and finding joy, I was able to create something which brought me a lot of satisfaction and joy. So it doesn't have to, it's not so much, having to be so concerned with...
I think it's just coming back to the question, is this coming from fear or coming from love? Like when we're doing things, whether it's up at 9 o'clock at night creating content or writing emails or whatever, is this out of fear that we're not doing enough, or is it out of fear that we're not going to attract more clients, or is it actually coming from a place of love?
Because it's so obvious, when we're having fun, it's magnetic. Like the joy is magnetic for other people. And I guess maybe it's a systemic thing that we all kind of experience this lack of joy in life at the moment because of, maybe it's a societal by design, like the way we're taught to function, or just because of the world we live in.
Oh, it's a pressure, right? Like, to be successful, you've got to do this, 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 and this. And there's like this pressure on everyone because most people want to be successful. But what is success?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, that's a whole other podcast in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember having this idea. I'm doing a mentorship at the moment, and my coach was saying to me, I'd like you to draw up what it looks like for you to be successful in all aspects of your life. And I wrote this whole thing out of, all these things that I thought that I wanted. And then we did a breathwork journey like a week later. And it turned out in that breathwork journey, I kind of really tapped into what it is that I really wanted on a deeper level. And I just had this visual of you, me, some children, I say awkwardly.
Why is that awkward?
I guess because I still have resistance to it. But yeah, just like us kids sitting in a field with a picnic over the ocean, and like that was like it felt like heartfelt joy and satisfaction. Yeah, as opposed to this desire to be more or have more.
It was about the energy, right? It's about the emotion that you felt, and that was happiness.
Yeah.
Freedom. Love.
Should we close it up there for now? Yeah, let us know if you'd like to see more of these videos. Have you enjoyed that?
Yeah.
It's been good?
I felt really nervous at the start, and then I think when you set an intention, it's kind of like putting the pillars of the
that foundation
wherever we're going to explore. Like, we don't know, we don't really talk about what we're going to talk about. But yeah, it's the foundation of just the power and the transmission of this sharing, and feeling really grateful.
Yeah, likewise. Beautiful.
Love you.
Oh, love you. And thank you for tuning in.